All aspiring top performers know that feedback is precisely what they allow them to fix the performance, solve the bottlenecks, and become better at an accelerated pace. But what if I told you that asking for feedback from other people is exactly the wrong strategy to follow if you actually want to have good, actionable information to eliminate your performance? By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what kind of feedback you need to gather and, more importantly, how to make it actionable. If you really want to become a top performer, you cannot miss this video. Let's get to it. Hello everyone, Leon Castillo here, CEO and founder of Selfmastered, which is a company that specializes in peak cognitive performance for entrepreneurs and business leaders. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing because we release a few videos every week to help ambitious entrepreneurs scale their businesses by fixing their personal performance. Our clients call us the secret weapon. Now, this video I think is a very important one because it dispels a common misconception most people have regarding feedback, right? So, that's normally a good piece of advice. Seek as much feedback as possible, integrate it into your daily reflection, and see what other people are seeing from you that you are not seeing. And therefore, how can you become better faster by implementing as many data points as possible? The problem with this is that asking for feedback from other people has two fundamental problems embedded within. That if you do not address them, then that feedback will not be useful or actionable. So the first problem that comes from asking for feedbacks from others is that normally feedback from others has a subjective nature, meaning feedback is tainted by their opinions and their relationship they have with you. So normally, if you're asking for feedback from somebody with whom you have a good relationship with, that person will not want to hurt you. So they will moderate their opinions. They will turn the dial down a little bit to avoid being hurtful to you, right? So in other words, they will water their advice so much that in the end, it will not be actionable enough, right? So that's number one. The subjective nature of other people's feedback make it rarely actionable. And two is that feedback is normally directed towards the past, meaning what happened in the past, what was your past performance and what could you have done differently. But what you want is feedback that's actually useful for the future, feedback that can actually help you become better in the future, right? And normally when you ask for feedback, the natural tendency is to just eliminate what you did wrong in the past without suggesting potential ways of improvement. That, of course, those potential ways of improvement, you can think them yourself, but it's always good, especially if you ask for feedback from somebody that is more experienced than you, to actually have that feedback embedded with new courses of action, right? So you may be thinking, okay, so should I just not use other people's feedback? No, you should. But instead of asking for feedback, you should ask for advice. Because asking for advice solves those two problems we just mentioned in one go. First, advice is when people provide advice, they provide advice as if they were doing or they were in the same shoes that you were when doing the things that they're giving advice on. Right? So instead of seeing the problem from an external perspective, they're seeing it from an internal perspective. And that makes them think what they would have done differently if they were in your shoes, right? So that subjective nature of the feedback they're providing is more close to the truth and therefore more useful. It also illuminates up to 50% more areas for improvement and goes deeper into each area of improvement because they've removed the distance between the object and the subject, between you and them. By asking for feedback, they tend to put themselves in your shoes, as I was mentioning. So that's number one. They ask for advice, they're feeling the same way they were feeling, they're in your position, then they tend to be more truthful, and it also tends to be less hurtful. Now, that's number one. Number two is that advice is normally directed towards the future, right? When you ask for people for advice, they automatically think about, all right, how can I provide advice so that this person actually becomes better in the future? It's embedded in the question. If you change the question from feedback to advice, then that natural shifts come and people start providing advice on how to improve in the future, right? So do not ask for feedback, ask for advice. But that's on what's related to subjective feedback, right? But what about objective feedback, right? A person cannot really provide objective feedback because a person is a subject, right? So there's always, all opinions are tainted by the relationship between you and themselves. But how can you then get objective feedback? Well, back to the idea that we have discussed 1,000 times on this channel is about taking a look in third person about your performance and tracking KPIs, tracking your key performance indicator across each part of what we call the system of view of your performance to improve. And this data needs to be collected every day and analyzed every week in what we use internally called a dashboard, right? That dashboard can be as complicated or as simple as you want, but it has to have a minimal amount of data points to make it useful and actionable. What we suggest you do is, for everything you do during your workday, you need to have a clear idea of what are you trying to do. So what's the planning here? What is what you actually end up doing? So what is what you get done? What's the execution gap, right? Between what you said you were going to do and what you finally ended up doing. So what's the distance between both things? Because that execution gap is related to your skill level, and your skill level is related to your focus, right? So you need to have an understanding of what you're trying to do, what you finally end up doing, what's your skill level or execution gap between both things, and then how well leveraged is that task in your day, right? How important it is for that long-term mission. And this is like the 4 pieces of data that at least you need to gather about your day. Because if you have no distance between your planning and execution skills, you mean you have a very high skill level and a high level of self-awareness because you understand your current level of your capabilities very well. That's something top performers do very well. And if you only work on high leverage tasks, then it becomes way easier to advance your business at an accelerated fashion. So hopefully this was useful. Please do this. Instead of asking for feedback, ask for advice and build a dashboard that can provide objective feedback about who you are and what you are trying to do. Please let me know in the comments if this was useful, and of course, if you want a proven dashboard and you want to have a methodology that will improve your performance week on week, please apply for the Selfmastered program. Let's have a one-on-one call with me and see if it makes sense that we onboard you into the community and take your business and career to the next level. Thank you very much.